My name is June Calloway. I'm 29 years old. On November 21st, 2024, my mother called me home for Thanksgiving. The whole family's going to be there, she said. It'll be special this year. I drove 43 miles from my apartment in Murfreesboro to my parents' house in Franklin, Tennessee, the one with the wraparound porch and the magnolia tree my grandmother planted in 1971. I pulled into the driveway at 11:14 a.m. and sat in my car for 2 minutes before going inside. I don't know why. Some instinct, maybe. The kind your body knows before your brain catches up. The house was quiet in the wrong way. My grandmother's 1994 Buick LeSabre was parked crooked by the garage. Everyone else's cars were gone. I found her in the sunroom, sitting in her wingback chair by the window, the one she'd had since before I was born. She was 81 years old, wearing her blue housecoat and the reading glasses that sat perpetually on the end of her nose. She had a paperback in her lap, a Louis L'Amour Western she'd probably read 4 times already, and she was looking out at the backyard like she'd been expecting me. "Grandma, where is everyone?" She closed her book slowly, set it on the side table, took a breath. "Nashville," she said. "Your brother surprised them with a trip. Reservations at the Hermitage Hotel for the long weekend. Very fancy, I'm told." The Hermitage Hotel. I knew what that cost. I'd looked it up once for an anniversary I couldn't afford. Starting at $490 a night. For a long weekend, Thursday through Sunday, with my parents and my brother and his wife and their 2 kids, that was somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000 in hotel alone. Not counting the restaurant. Not counting anything. "When did they leave?" "This morning," she said. "Early." "Before I woke up." She pointed toward the kitchen counter without looking at it. I walked over. There was a note in my mother's handwriting on a Post-it, the yellow kind, the cheap ones from Dollar General, not the nice ones she kept for her personal stationery. "June. So glad you're coming. Grammy needs her heart meds at noon and again at 8. Pill organizer is on the counter. Call if anything comes up. There's a casserole in the fridge. Back Sunday evening. Love you." 3 exclamation points. "Love you," with 2 exclamation points, after a Post-it telling me to manage her mother-in-law's cardiac medication schedule for 5 days without asking if I was free. I read it twice. Then, I folded it in half and put it in my coat pocket. I didn't call my mother. I already knew how that conversation would go. "Sweetie, you're so good at this. You work from home. It's not like you had real plans. Grammy loves when you visit." And I'd end up apologizing for being upset, which was somehow always the way it ended, me apologizing for feelings they caused. I texted my boyfriend instead. "They're not here. It's just me and Grammy. I'll explain later." His reply came in under a minute. "Of course they did. I'm sorry, Jules," I didn't respond. I put my phone in my pocket and went back to the sunroom. "Well," I said, sitting down on the ottoman across from her. "Looks like it's just us." She looked at me over the top of her glasses. Her eyes were sharp and dark, the same eyes she'd had at 40, nothing clouded about them. "Has been for a while," she said quietly. She wasn't talking about that morning. "Let me tell you about my grandmother. Because if you're going to understand what happened in the weeks after that Thanksgiving, you need to understand her first. Her name is Loretta Mae Hutchins. She was born in 1943 in Cookeville, Tennessee, the 3rd of 7 children. Her father worked the railroad. Her mother took in sewing. Loretta married my grandfather Earl in 1962 when she was 19. They built a landscaping business out of nothing, Earl operating the equipment, Loretta keeping the books on a card table in their spare bedroom, answering phones during the day while raising 3 kids. By 1985, Hutchins Landscaping Grounds had 14 full-time employees, 24 residential contracts, and 3 commercial accounts with the county. By 2001, when my grandfather died of a stroke at 68, she was running it alone. In 2009, she sold the business to a regional chain and retired. She never told anyone in the family what she sold it for. My grandfather's death hit her hard, but she didn't slow down. She kept the house, a 4-bedroom in Franklin with a half-acre lot that backed up to a creek, and she tended the garden herself until her knees made it impossible. She drove her own car. She managed her own finances. She did her own taxes every year with a pencil and a legal pad until her accountant finally convinced her to let him handle it in 2019. She gave gifts at Christmas and birthdays, reasonable ones. $50 checks, sometimes $100. Nothing extravagant. My parents, I think, had decided she was comfortable but not wealthy. Modest savings, Social Security, the house, which would presumably sell for something decent when the time came. They had never asked her directly. She had never told them. What I knew about her, what everyone had decided they knew, was that she was old and needed looking after. That was the role she'd been assigned. That was why my mother called me instead of making other arrangements, because I worked from home as a freelance medical billing coder, which apparently translated in my mother's mind to available at all times for family emergencies that aren't actually emergencies. The casserole in the fridge was store-bought, King's Hawaiian roll pull-apart thing, the kind you get in the freezer section. $7.99. Still had the price sticker on the foil. I checked Grammy's pill organizer. She was on Metaprolol for her heart, a low-dose statin, a baby aspirin, and vitamin D. Everything was current, filled correctly. I reset the alarm on her phone, the Samsung flip phone my cousin had gotten her 3 Christmases ago, to remind her at noon and 8 p.m. "You don't have to fuss," she said from the doorway. "I'm not fussing. I'm doing what I do at work, except the patient is you, and you're more stubborn than most." She almost smiled. "You work with patients? Medical records for a cardiology practice in Brentwood. I know what metoprolol is, Grammy." She studied me for a moment. "Sit down, June." I sat. She didn't say anything for a while, just looked out the window at the backyard, at the garden beds that had gone brown for winter, at the bird feeder she kept stocked even in November. "Your mother called me Tuesday," she said finally. "Asked how I was doing." I told her my left knee had been bothering me. You know what she said? "What?" "That I should look into one of those chair rail things for the stairs. And then she mentioned that your brother had surprised them with Thanksgiving plans, and wasn't that just like him? So thoughtful." She paused. She didn't ask if I needed anything. She mentioned the knee and moved on. I didn't say anything. "She's been doing that for years," Grammy said. "Mentioning things and moving on." I've been counting. Something about the way she said it. "I've been counting." Made me go still. She picked up her book again. Open and shut, like she'd said all she needed to. I thought about it the rest of the afternoon. I've been counting. Not "I've noticed," or "it bothers me." Counting. Like she was keeping a ledger. The 5 days I spent in that house were the quietest, most uncomplicated days I'd had in years. Grammy woke at 6 every morning. I heard her in the kitchen, the coffee maker, the creak of her chair at the table, the low murmur of the local news. By the time I came downstairs at 7, she had her coffee and her crossword, and she'd saved me the comics section, which she'd been doing since I was 8, and which she did without comment, just set it next to my cup. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. I worked at the kitchen table in the mornings while she read. In the afternoons we drove. She insisted on driving her own car, and I sat in the passenger seat of that ancient Buick and let her go 8 miles under the speed limit on every road in Williamson County, while other drivers passed us with varying degrees of irritation, and she did not care even slightly. We went to the Piggly Wiggly on Highway 96. She bought soup and bread and a rotisserie chicken and a pumpkin pie that was technically a day past its sell-by date, but that she said was perfectly fine and was correct. We ate at her kitchen table on real plates with cloth napkins. She asked me about my work. I told her about the cardiology practice, about the billing codes, about a particularly complicated insurance dispute I'd been fighting for 2 weeks. She listened. She asked follow-up questions. She remembered what I'd told her 6 months ago about a different dispute and asked how that one had resolved. My mother had never once asked a follow-up question about my work. On Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, I found a business card on the kitchen windowsill. It had been tucked behind a small clay pot, the kind you get at a craft fair. Theodore R. Blanchard, Attorney at Law, Estate Planning and Trust Administration, Franklin, TN. A local number. On the back, in Grammy's handwriting, Dec 12th, 10 a.m. I put the card back exactly where I'd found it. December 12th was 3 weeks away. My mother texted on Friday afternoon. "Hi, honey. How's Grammy doing? Hope everything's going smoothly. We're having such a lovely time. The restaurant here is amazing." She included a photo of a dinner plate, beef tenderloin. I looked up the menu later. $68 an entree. I typed 3 different responses, deleted them all, Sent, everything's fine, Grammy's good. Her reply, you're such a sweetheart. We'll be back Sunday, don't forget the 8 p.m. meds. I'm a medical billing coder for a cardiology practice. I process prior authorizations for cardiac ablations. I have appealed insurance denials for pacemaker implants. I have read enough cardiology documentation to understand left ventricular ejection fraction. But my mother felt the need to remind me, from her $4.89 a night hotel room in Nashville, to give an 81-year-old woman her heart pill. I screenshotted the text, added it to a folder on my phone I'd been building for a while, one I'd never consciously decided to start, just one day realized I'd been filling. Saturday morning, Grammy woke up before me and was in the garden when I came downstairs. It was 34 degrees. She was in her canvas coat and her Oles gardening gloves, the ones with the floral pattern that had been mended at least 4 times, kneeling by the rose beds, deadheading the last of the season's stems. Grammy, it's freezing. Roses don't care what the thermometer says. She didn't look up. Hand me that bucket. I handed her the bucket. I knelt down beside her. We worked for half an hour in the cold, and she showed me which canes to cut and which to leave, and explained something about root energy and winter dormancy that I half understood and fully believed. Your grandfather planted these in 1978, she said. Golden Celebration variety. They were his mother's favorite. She touched one of the remaining canes. I've kept them going 46 years. You could hire someone to do this. I could. She sat back on her heels. But then who would remember him? We went inside and I made us oatmeal, and she made the coffee because she said I made it too weak, which was fair. At the kitchen table, she said without preamble, June, do you know what this house is worth? I blinked. Zillow says around $640,000. And you know whose name is on the deed? I hesitated. Yours? She looked at me steadily. Mine. Always has been. Your grandfather put it in my name in 1979. Your father has assumed for 30 years that he will inherit it. He has never asked. I have never corrected him. She stood up, put her bowl in the sink, and walked to the living room. Left me sitting there with the word assumed hanging in the air like smoke. Sunday morning. The landline rang. She still had a landline, a cordless phone from 2007 that lived on the kitchen wall. She answered it in her kitchen table voice, Hutchins Residence. A pause. Yes, Theodore. I got your message. Another pause. No, not yet. I need to see something first. She glanced at me across the kitchen. I looked down at my laptop. December 12th, 10 a.m. Yes. Bring everything. Pause. Don't mention it to the family. This is between us. She hung up. Walked back to the table. Picked up her crossword. I stared at my screen and did not read a single word of the document in front of me. Theodore, the attorney. December 12th. Don't mention it to the family. 3 weeks away. Grammy, I said carefully. Is everything okay? She didn't look up from the crossword. Everything is exactly as it should be. She said it the way you'd say something you'd been waiting a long time to say. My family came back Sunday evening. 3 cars in the driveway at once. My parents' Volvo, my brother's Explorer, his wife's Lexus, doors, luggage, the noise of my nephew and niece running up the porch steps. My mother came in bright and tan and carrying a shopping bag from a boutique in the Gulch. Oh, it was just wonderful, she said, hugging Grammy in the perfunctory way she always did. One arm, brief. We missed you. How did everything go? Was June helpful? Grammy said. June was exactly what I needed. My mother smiled at me, the kind of smile that says good girl without using those words. She handed me the shopping bag. We got you something. A little thank you. Inside was a candle. $22 candle from a boutique store, bergamot and cedar. I know the price because I've seen the same candle at the TJ Maxx on Carruthers Parkway for $7.99. My brother came in behind her. He was 36, a project manager at a construction firm in Brentwood. He made good money. He had the Explorer and the Lexus and the membership at the golf club and the ski trip every February and the private preschool for his kids. He put his bags down and looked around the kitchen with the particular expression of someone who has returned to a place he considers himself entitled to and found it in acceptable order. Hey, June. That's all. Hey, June. Not salty, Hugh. No, thank you for staying with Grammy for 5 days. No, I know this wasn't what you had planned. Just, "Hey, June," like I was a piece of furniture he'd noticed was still there. I nodded. I did not say anything because there was nothing I trusted myself to say. Grammy watched all of this from her chair in the living room. Her eyes moved between us with that same sharp filing quality I'd noticed during the week, like she was confirming something, making a final note in a ledger she'd been keeping for a very long time. I drove home that night. My boyfriend was waiting up. He'd made soup, the real kind, not from a can. And he handed me a bowl before I'd even taken my coat off. "Tell me," he said. I told him about the note. About the post-it with 2 exclamation points. About the casserole with the price tag still on. About my mother's texts from the hotel and the $68 entree. About "Hey June" from my brother, like I was a hallway lamp. He listened without interrupting. "And," he said when I was done, I told him about the business card, about Theodore Blanchard, about December 12th, and don't mention it to the family. He was quiet for a moment. Then, "What do you think is happening?" "I don't know," I said, "but I think Grammy's been watching for a long time, and I think she's done." He reached over and took my hand. "You've always deserved better from them, Jules. You just never let yourself believe it." I didn't answer. I ate my soup. But I thought about that for the next 3 weeks. December 12th, 9:37 a.m., Grammy called me. "June." Her voice was direct, no preamble. "I need you here at 10 o'clock. Can you come?" "I need you here at 10 o'clock. Can you come?" "I'm already on 65 South." A pause. "How did you know?" "I didn't. I wanted to check on you." Another pause. "Good girl," she said, and hung up. Theodore Blanchard was already parked in the driveway when I arrived, a gray Chrysler, clean and understated. He was a man in his late 60s with white hair and a navy suit and a leather briefcase, and he shook my hand at the door with the careful courtesy of someone who understood that what was about to happen in this house mattered. Grammy was in her wingback chair. She was wearing her church dress, the dark green one, and she had done her hair. I hadn't seen her in her church dress outside of an actual Sunday in years. "Sit down, June," she said. Not a request. I sat on the sofa. Theodore took the armchair across from us, opened his briefcase, and removed a folder perhaps an inch thick. "Mrs. Hutchins," he said, "I have the documents as requested. The amended trust, the will, and the letter." Grammy nodded once. Turned to me. "June, Theodore is going to explain some things. I want you to listen before you say anything." Theodore cleared his throat. His voice was measured, professional. "Miss Calloway, your grandmother has made significant changes to her estate plan, effective as of December 10th, 2024. He opened the folder. Total trust assets, $4.1 million. I heard the number, I understood it, and then immediately understood almost nothing else for the next 30 seconds. Your grandmother sold Hutchins Landscape and Grounds in 2009 for $3.1 million. She has invested conservatively over the 15 years since, diversified index funds, municipal bonds, a small REIT position. Annual returns averaged 6.1%. She lives on approximately $34,000 per year, including Social Security. The remainder has been reinvested or donated anonymously to local causes, including the Cookeville Public Library Endowment, a scholarship fund at Tennessee Tech, and the Williamson County Hospice Foundation. Grammy was looking at me. Her expression was steady. "Patient. Distribution," Theodore continued, "is as follows." He set a page on the coffee table between us. "To your father, $150,000. To your mother, $150,000. To your brother, $150,000. He paused. "To the Hutchins Family Charitable Fund, to be administered at your discretion, $500,000. To you, June Loretta Calloway." Another pause. Just a breath. Just long enough. $315,000 plus sole discretionary authority over any future distributions to family members. The room was very quiet. "Grammy," I said. My voice came out steady, which surprised me. She reached over and took my hand. Her grip was strong. Stronger than I expected. "They left me a post-it note," she said quietly. "They have left me post-it notes for 20 years. Notes about my medications, my appointments, my grocery needs. Notes instead of phone calls. Notes instead of visits." She squeezed my hand. "You drove 43 miles because I said the word Thanksgiving. You didn't ask what you'd get out of it. You didn't negotiate, you just came. Grammy, I know you didn't. She looked at me directly. That's the whole point. Theodore produced a sealed envelope, cream-colored, substantial, and set it on the table. Mrs. Hutchins has requested that I be present when the family is informed. She scheduled them to come to the house on December 14th. I'll read the letter aloud at that time. I nodded. I couldn't think of words. We sat there for a while after Theodore left, Grammy and I, in the sunroom with the afternoon light coming through the windows. She made tea. We drank it. She did her crossword. I stared at the garden. Grammy, I said finally. What if I want to give them more someday? Then you will, she said, not looking up. That's yours to decide. I'm not punishing them. I'm just making sure the decision belongs to someone who's actually been paying attention. December 14th was a Saturday. My parents and my brother arrived within minutes of each other at 2 p.m. They came in talking, coats still on, carrying the easy confidence of people who have been invited to a house they consider functionally theirs. They saw Theodore first, then the briefcase, then me, sitting next to Grammy's chair. My mother's hand went to her throat. Mother, my father said carefully. What's going on? Sit down, please, Grammy said. My father sat. My mother sat. My brother stood for a moment longer than necessary before pulling a dining chair into the living room and positioning himself slightly apart from everyone else, the way he always did in rooms where he didn't control the narrative. Theodore introduced himself. Opened the folder. My father's face went through 4 expressions in 6 seconds when Theodore said $4.1 million. Confusion first, then disbelief, then something that looked like the beginning of relief. Maybe he thought that meant a distribution would be large. And then, when Theodore read the amounts, something that I don't have a precise word for, like a floor dropping. 150,000, my father repeated. Flat, stating it back like there'd been an error. Correct, Theodore said. And June gets the remainder, yes, plus administrative authority over future distributions. My brother stood up. Grandma, he stopped, started again. This is not what you want. You've been here alone. She's been influencing you. Grammy's voice was quiet and absolutely final. Sit down. He sat. June has not influenced me, she said. June came because I called. She spent 5 days here managing my medications, cooking meals, driving me to the grocery store, and sitting with me in the evenings when the house was quiet. She did this without complaint, without negotiating, and without knowing that any of this existed. She gestured to the folder on the table. You left me a post-it note. My mother made a sound. Not quite a sob. Something caught in the throat. We didn't think you needed. We thought June would be better suited. You thought I was manageable, Grammy said. You thought I was a task to be delegated. Theodore reached for the sealed envelope, opened it. Mrs. Hutchins has prepared a letter. She's asked me to read it. My father said, that's not necessary. Theodore said with gentle precision, I'm afraid it is. He unfolded 3 pages. Grammy's handwriting. He began to read. To my son, my daughter-in-law, and my grandson, I am 81 years old. I built a business from nothing. I kept the books on a card table. I drove the second truck myself in the early years when we couldn't afford a 3rd employee. I sold that company in 2009 for more than you know, and I have spent the 15 years since living on $34,000 a year, donating the rest, watching my family make assumptions about what I had and what I was. I want you to understand something. I am not angry. Anger requires surprise, and nothing you have done has surprised me in a very long time. You have managed me. You have scheduled me. You have sent post-it notes and $22 candles and texts from hotel restaurants to remind a woman with 30 years of business experience to give herself her own pill. My brother's wife. I realized she'd come in quietly during the reading and was standing in the doorway, made a small noise. He didn't look at her. Theodore kept reading. What I have watched, over the past 20 years, is a family that learned to see me as a variable, something to be accounted for, arranged, and minimized. The one exception has been June. June, who drove 43 miles in November because I used the word Thanksgiving. June, who found my pill organizer already sorted and resorted it herself anyway because she wanted to verify it personally. June, who sat with me in my kitchen for 5 days and asked follow-up questions about things I'd told her 6 months ago. June, who knelt next to me in a 34-degree garden because I needed someone beside me, and she didn't ask why. I have left her everything for the same reason Earl put this house in my name in 1979, because she pays attention, because she shows up, because she sees me as a person rather than a line item. You will each receive $150,000. That is generous. If you believe you deserve more, you will make that case to June, not to me. I am done being the one who decides whether my family has earned basic decency. That responsibility now rests with the person who demonstrated it without being asked. I love you. I am also finished pretending that love is the same thing as approval. Loretta Mae Hutchins, December 10, 2024. Theodore folded the letter, set it down. The room was silent for 11 seconds. I know because I counted my heartbeats. Then my brother said, "You can't do this." "I'll contest it." Undue influence, diminished capacity. Theodore closed his briefcase. I evaluated Mrs. Hutchins personally. I have known her for 19 years. She is, to use the legal standard, of exceptionally sound mind. You are welcome to challenge the trust in Williamson County Circuit Court. I would estimate your legal fees at $40,000 to $60,000. You will not prevail, and you will spend your entire distribution doing it. I would advise against it. My mother turned to me. Her eyes were wet. June. Sweetheart. You know this isn't what she really means. She's sitting right here, I said. Ask her. She looked at Grammy. Grammy looked back at her with an expression of complete, calm finality and said nothing. My father stood up. His voice had gone quiet, which was worse than when he was loud. Isabel, you are making a mistake. This money was meant for this family. I am this family, I said. He had no answer to that. They left in pieces. My mother first, then my father with his hand on her shoulder. My brother was last. He stopped in the doorway and looked at me with an expression I'd seen on his face since we were children, the one that said he was recalibrating, filing me under a new category. You planned this, he said. I came for Thanksgiving, I said. You went to a hotel. He left. His wife gave me one look, apologetic, exhausted, and followed him. Grammy and I sat in the sunroom in the late afternoon quiet. Are you all right? I asked. I'm relieved, she said. Simply, like she'd set down something heavy. The text started that night. My mother at 7:11 p.m. June, we need to talk. Please call me. My father at 9:03 p.m. This is not what your grandmother would have wanted for this family. You know that. My brother at 11:47 p.m. Enjoy it while it lasts. My brother at 11:47 p.m. Enjoy it while it lasts. I screenshotted all of them. Added them to the folder. My mother came to Grammy's house 4 days later. No makeup. First time I'd seen that. She was carrying a pie from the bakery on Main Street. She handed it to me at the door. I thought we could talk, she said. Okay. She sat at Grammy's kitchen table. I sat across from her. Grammy was in the living room, deliberately not intervening. I know I haven't always. She stopped. I know we could have done more, called more. I know the way we handled Thanksgiving wasn't right. She looked at her hands, but we're your family. And I need you to understand that we love you, even if we haven't always shown it the way we should have. I let the sentence sit for a moment. What kind of pie did you bring? I asked. She blinked. What? The pie. What flavor? Peach. Your favorite. I'm allergic to peaches, I said. Since I was 14. Peaches and mangoes both. Tree fruit cross-reactivity with my birch pollen allergy. You took me to the allergist yourself. She stared at me. My favorite is apple, I said. It has been for 15 years. That's my brother's favorite. Peach. The realization moved across her face slowly, like something coming into focus from a long distance. June, I'm not doing this for money, I said. I need you to understand that. I don't need you to give me something to make this right. I need you to figure out why you don't know what kind of pie I like. She started crying. Real crying, not the composed kind she used in difficult conversations. I don't know what to say. I know, that's actually the right answer for once. I asked Theodore to formalize 3 conditions for any future distributions. First, 6 months of family therapy, couples for my parents, and individual sessions for my brother. I wanted attendance confirmation from the therapist. Second, 20 hours of volunteer time at the Williamson County Hospice. I wanted them to sit with people who were leaving, to understand what my grandmother had spent 30 years knowing about what matters at the end. Third, a handwritten letter, not typed, not emailed, explaining specifically what they had done and what they intended to change. Not what they felt, what they would do. My mother agreed within a week. My father agreed, slowly, after 3 conversations. My brother did not agree. He sent me a legal-sounding email through his company account implying he was consulting with a litigation attorney. I forwarded it to Theodore. Theodore sent a response so precisely worded that I read it twice. My brother did not email again. Granny passed on March 3, 2025. She was in her wingback chair. The hospice nurse, a woman named Adela who had been coming twice a week since February, said it was peaceful. That she'd been comfortable. That she'd had her crossword in her lap. I got there 20 minutes after. Sat with her for a while. The room smelled like her hand cream, and the cedar sachet she kept in the curtain hem, and faintly like the coffee from that morning. I held her hand and didn't say much. I'm not someone who talks at people who are gone. But I did say thank you. For the crossword sections she saved me, for the follow-up questions, for being the only person in my life who remembered things I'd mentioned in passing 6 months earlier, for seeing me. Her ashes are in the rose garden. The golden celebration variety, the ones her husband's mother loved, the ones she kept alive for 46 years. They're dormant now, but they'll bloom in May. I know, because I've been caring for them since March, the way she showed me. The right cuts, the root energy, the winter patience required to tend something that looks dead but isn't. My father has completed 11 therapy sessions. He called me in January and said, without any preamble, that he was sorry. Not for the money. For the graduation he missed when I was in college, the one where I walked across a stage, and he said he had a work conflict, and I later found out he'd gone to my brother's firm happy hour. He said it plainly, the way people say things when they finally stopped managing how they sound. I didn't forgive him on the phone. I said I heard him. That was true, and it was enough for now. My mother finished her therapy requirement in February. She brought me an apple pie in March, the right kind from the right bakery. She stood at the door and said I looked it up. I should have known. I let her in. We ate pie at Grammy's table. We didn't talk about the money. My brother bought a truck. We don't speak. That's his choice. And I'm done spending energy on people who've decided their pride is worth more than their family. Grammy taught me that too in her way. That some silences are peaceful, and some are just weight you were never supposed to be carrying. I still do medical billing. I work from Grammy's house now, my house, technically, though I still think of it as hers. I have the cardiology practice accounts and 2 new clients I picked up in January. I get up at 6. I make coffee. Stronger than Grammy liked it, weaker than I probably should. And I do my work at the kitchen table where she used to do her crossword, and sometimes in the late morning I go out to the rose beds and check on the canes. My boyfriend proposed on Valentine's Day, February 14, 2025, in the backyard, by the creek, with a ring he'd had made by a jeweler in East Nashville using a stone from his grandmother's brooch. It was the least expensive ring I've ever seen, and I cried for 10 minutes. I said yes before he finished the question. The money didn't change who I am. What it changed was simpler than that. It made it impossible for my family to keep pretending I was invisible. Grammy knew that was what I actually needed. Not the money. The proof that someone had been watching all along and had seen exactly who I was. My name is June Calloway. I'm 29 years old. I'm a medical billing coder in Franklin, Tennessee. I tend my grandmother's roses. I make the coffee 2 week. I know what a metoprolol is and what it's for, and why it matters. And for the first time in my life, that's more than enough.